And I remember just watching, and Artie would try to dance with me, but he was so advanced, right? And there's actually a technique I'm learning with the actual Latin hustle that I couldn't hear him. You know, I couldn't. He was just so good, but I couldn't because he wasn't really using leverage, right? So
Yeah.
Abdiel, just really quickly, Abdiel and I are in the process of doing some deep diving, digging, and research on the actual Latin hustle technique syllabus that Billy Fajardo put together. And
Right.
we literally, from the very first pattern, went,
Mike Bello here with the next episode of Let's Talk Hustle with my wonderful, beautiful, fabulous friend, Kristine Bendel. How you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Great to see you.
great to see you too. I know that you travel a lot, you work a lot, you have so much to do, and it's tough sometimes to even get to see each other and things like
Mm,
that. I think the last time I came to visit was what, like 8 months ago, something like that.
I think was it right after I got back from my Achilles
Yes, yes,
injury?
right afterwards,
So
yeah.
that would have been the end of 22, maybe beginning of 23, something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, 23 probably. Wow, so it's almost a year then.
Yeah.
Yikes. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because then I saw you afterwards at the Copa and all that.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes, that was awesome. Look, this is what we're gonna do. I like to just kind of jump right in on it,
Hmm.
and I'll have some questions more geared towards you, your life with hustle. And
Hmm.
the first one, it may seem like, why did I start out this way? But I think it'd be really interesting. You had a deep friendship and association with Arte Phillips. Tell us
Mm.
more about your journey with this Latin hustle giant.
Well, it's funny. I didn't know Artie as a hustle dancer when I met him.
Ah,
I moved to New York City officially in January of 96 to pursue Broadway.
okay.
And I was very lucky that I was getting work. Like I had booked an industrial. Somebody in that industrial recommended me for the Broadway series at City Center called Encores. And then one of the people in that show, a dancer, recommended me for this big Broadway burlesque benefit called Broadway Bears.
Okay.
And normally back then, when it started, you actually had to be in a Broadway show in order to do Broadway Bears.
Ah, okay.
Now anybody can do it. But back then,
Right,
so
right.
Michael Buress, this incredible actor, singer, dancer, triple threat, and television film crossover, he said, there's this amazing benefit. You'd be so great. I can get you in. And he was telling me about it. And I thought, wow, yeah, that sounds fantastic. So this is in 1996. It was the last year the Palladium was open. It was at the Palladium.
Okay.
And I didn't know what Broadway Bears was about. I was in the newbie number. And I just remember being so intimidated because I didn't know I was about to get my Broadway show in a month. So I was still new. I didn't know people. So I'm watching all these, fierce Broadway performers. And then there's this number, and I see Artie dancing with Pascal Fay. She was, she was ballet trained, and they did this beautiful duet with Strip. And I do have to backtrack a little bit because before I came to New York to do Broadway, I started out as a professional classical ballerina.
Oh, okay.
And I toured twice with City Ballet. I danced with the Boston Ballet Summer Program. I was the first professional Asian female ballerina with New Jersey Ballet Company. So I thought that was going to be my career.
Right.
That ended up moving me into giving me the skill set that I actually got a job as the Adagio theater arts performer on a cruise ship.
Oh,
So
okay.
I started my partner dancing up in the air doing lift work before I learned any lead follow dancing. So
Okay.
that was in 1994, right before I moved to New York. So I remember loving lift work, but it wasn't as, it was more athletic. It was very showy. It didn't have that beautiful, technical, elegant quality, say, like if you watch Pierre Dulaine or Andy Van Marceau or
Right.
Artie and Pascal, right? So all I know is that here I am at Broadway Bears and I see this guy dancing with this woman, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I go, oh my God, who is that? Oh my God, they're amazing, right? And so, cut to a year later, I have now been in my first Broadway show. I'm invited to do Broadway Bears again. And that year, Artie ended up doing this beautiful Adagio trio with his partner at the time, David Elder and Pascal. It's at Webster Hall. And I remember they did the beautiful Secret Garden trio. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's the guy again. I don't know why, but I know I'm supposed to be dancing with him. Like I'm supposed to be doing that number with him. I couldn't explain it. It was so powerful.
Wow.
So this is in 1997. And, after the dress rehearsal run where all the Broadway shows are together, because they rehearse every number separate. So you never see any of the other numbers until the big day put in. And everyone's crowding into this the studio doesn't exist anymore. It was called New Dance Group on 47th between Broadway and 8th. We're all crammed in. And I mean, it was just the most stunning piece ever. And as they're leaving the studio, I had to introduce myself to Artie. Hi, that was so beautiful. Oh my gosh, my name's Kristine. And he was sweet. Like, so many people trying to talk to him. He's like, oh, thank you so much. So, and that was my second time seeing Artie in a year.
In a year, right.
Then cut through a little bit more into my career. And in 1999, I thought I wanted to quit Broadway. It was like, it was fun, but it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. I wasn't feeling fulfilled, and I wanted to focus on acting. And so I had been taking classes, and I was booking work, commercials, print, and I ended up getting a lead part in an independent film, a feature part in another, and then I got this random workshop for a new Broadway show called Swing. A workshop, though. Okay? So that was dance. The other two are acting. And I'm like, wait a minute, but I'm getting this work, but there's this dance show. And I always loved the idea of ballroom. I always thought, I'd love to learn how to do all that partnering stuff.
Right.
So something made me say, you know what, Kristine, your body's not going to be around forever. Take the dance gig. You can always go back to acting. So I take this gig, and I didn't realize that there were 2 workshops prior to the one I did. And I heard that Artie had been a part of it, of the workshops, or the first one rather.
Like teaching
like,
it, or
no, he was more the cast, like choreographed a lot of the numbers. Like a lot of the numbers you saw was Artie and Robert Royston. So anyway, when I heard that he was involved, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I just missed working with Arte Phillips, And so we did the workshop, and then we ended up moving to Broadway to the St. James Theater. And, 8 shows a week is no joke, right? So if you're not used to conditioning your body, we had incredible dancers. At the time, Ryan Francois, who studied under Frankie Manning, was married to Jenny Thomas, and they're from England. They were the Lindy Hop special lead couple and the stars of the show. And, Beverly Durand was the West Coast feature. Maria Torres was the Latin feature. And then there were 7 dance couples. Every couple had a different style, right? I was a swing in swing. So I covered everybody's part. I covered all 7 women. There was only one other female swing. And it was during the workshop, I was told I'm covering the features and she's only covering the ensemble work because she was young. She wasn't used to doing any of this partnering. And I had taken to it like, it just fit. I remember my first rehearsal, Robert Royston was leading some lead follow, and just felt like an amazing fit. Like, oh my God, this is so cool. There's this dialogue happening and compression and leverage. And it just like, I was like a sponge. I wanted to, but the first dance I learned was Lindy Hop. My first lead follow dance was Lindy Hop. And I loved it. And then as we were in rehearsal, so the workshop was over the summer. I think it was 4 or 5 week long. Then there was a little bit of a break. Then we started rehearsals for Broadway. When we got called with our Broadway contracts, I was told, hey, you don't have to cover the Lindy Hop feature because we're saving you for the West Coast feature, because that's like super power tricks, like crazy. I mean, not that the Lindy Hop people didn't have that, but, and I thought, great, one less role for me to have to worry about.
Right.
So as I getting back to the partner dancers that weren't used to doing 8 shows a week, a lot of injuries were happening. So the night, the invited industry dress rehearsal before the first preview, one of the girls got injured, sprained her ankle, and I was on the entire previews, and she came back just to open the show.
Wow.
By that time, Ryan's shoulder had been bothering him, and he had done some damage, and he wasn't able to, after the show opened, he had to take time off. And Jenny wouldn't dance with anybody except for Artie. And when Artie, years later, Artie would tell me all these stories. It was really funny how he just did not want to come back. He did not want to have anything to do with it. But Jenny begged him, please, Artie, I can't dance with anybody except for you. I don't trust anybody. And so all I remember is one day, like looking at the schedule, and I see Arte Phillips' name in rehearsal. I'm like, oh, what? What's happening? And so I thought, I'm going to get to meet Arte Phillips. Now, in my mind, again, still Broadway dancer, ballroom dancer. I don't even know what hustle is. And so I knew our paths wouldn't cross at all, or so I thought. But what had happened is right after Artie joined to dance with Jenny, the producers had hired, so that I didn't have to worry about Lindy, they hired someone who's kind of like a cookie cutter look-like of her. And Jenny's foot had been hurting her for so long. She found out she was dancing on a stress fracture. So after the show opened, she convinces Artie to come in. She has to call out. So now they're putting on her cover.
Right.
And this is within the first week the show opens.
Wow.
Like I'm not in the show. And I was devastated because I did all the previews, but I get it. Like, my friend Geraldine wanted to do the opening night. I totally get it. So in that very first week, this all happens. Ryan goes out, Artie comes in, Jenny goes out, the other dancer goes on. And all I know is after the first performance that this Jenny's replacement went on, I got called to the stage management office, and they said, I think it was a Sunday at the end of the week. They said, learn the track we're putting you on, because I guess they weren't happy with what they were seeing. I said, okay. Right. So the next night that there's a show, and we were packed, so standing room only. I'm standing in the back of the house because, the choreography in the show changes and evolves from workshop to Broadway. Like, there's all these tweaks. I hadn't thought about the part in months and months and months, hadn't relearned it or anything, didn't even rehearse it because I was told it was no longer on my plate, So I'm standing in the back of the house by the soundboard, and it's all these people, my dance captain's here, and opening number is happening. Everyone's on stage. And I feel tap, 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 tap. And I look, it's one of my stage managers. I'm like, what, Adam? Get Rod. I was like, Rod, they need you. You too, come on. And I was like, what? Nobody can be injured. Everyone's on stage. What's going on? So we go running. The St. James Studio is crazy if you've ever been. Like, there's this long hallway and you have to go back around this alley to get to the stage door. We come around and it's like, so Desiree's hurt. We got to put you on. I didn't have costumes for that track. I had never had rehearsal, but I had also never rehearsed with Artie. But I had rehearsed with Rod. So they took Artie out of the show and they had Rod and I'm just like, Rod basically grabbed my shoulders. It's like, okay, you got this. I'm just going to lead you, Lindy Circle, blah, 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 throw out. I was like, just lead me, right? I got through the whole show. Like, somehow they did cut the actual feature number because obviously there was no time or anything, but I did the entire track of the whole show with no rehearsals, no fast. They were pulling, like, maybe this one will fit her for that number. And then, it was insane. Like, but
that was all lead and follow.
It was lead follow.
Right.
Yeah. And at the time there was a tap number that ended up getting cut. Billy Dick. But yeah, it was all lead follow. So it was like, ah! So I got through this Broadway performance of a track that I hadn't touched. And it's not until I get home that I realize I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on for the Lindy track. That means I'm going to get to dance with Artie.
Right.
And so I'm waiting. Like it's Tuesday. So in Broadway, you work 6 days a week. Monday's a dark day. So that was Tuesday night. I'm thinking, great, I'll get to go on with Artie tomorrow. Well, because it was a 2-show day, they didn't get to rehearse me with Artie until Thursday or Friday or something.
They had to wait until later in the week to rehearse Artie and I together. And then I got to dance. So I was dancing the Lindy Hop track with Artie. I think we did Friday, Saturday, Sunday performance. Sunday matinee is the last day. And I just remember thinking, I have to impress him. Like, I just know I'm supposed to work with him outside of this show. And there wasn't a lot of time to really socialize, because everyone had their life, like after a show. I mean, sometimes the cast would like, oh, let's go for drinks. But it was a very physical show. And the demand for me was a lot because I had to do so many different tracks.
Mm.
So Sunday afternoon's performance, after the finale, I'm walking off stage and stage management grabs me again. And they said, we're taking you from the Lindy Hop track. Beverly just tore her calf. You're on for the West Coast feature. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to dance with Artie. But it took a while for them to get the other person to learn the ensemble stuff of the Lindy Hop track. So I was doing double duty. I did every feature of Lindy from the opening number and the finale number with Artie.
Mhm.
And then I did the Beverly Durand West Coast track the whole rest of the show. So I still got to dance with Artie. I don't really remember socializing with it. Like we would banter a little bit backstage, but you're constantly in numbers. So it wasn't
Right.
like there was a lot of time to hang out. So anyway, he only had maybe another week or so before Ryan came back. And when he left, I was devastated. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't have enough time to impress him. And oh man. And so this is now, let's see, we opened in December. This would be like January.
98.
No, he was gone. He was gone either by the end of December or beginning of January, I feel like. Anyway, continue on. I'm on for Beverly for 3 months. It was such a serious injury.
Right.
So I'm coming down the stairs. It was like February or something. And, there's a stairwell. I'm on the top floor. And I get to the bottom for places, and there's Artie with his motorcycle jacket and his helmet. It's like, oh my gosh, Artie, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm good. He said, I actually came to talk to you about something. I was like, me? He said, yeah. And I knew exactly what he was going to say. Like, I knew it. So anyway, he started saying, I said, what is it? And he said, so every year there's this really big Broadway benefit. It's kind of like a burlesque show. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the number. And I'm just baiting my breath. And he said, this year's the 10-year anniversary. It's a really big deal. And so what they're doing is they're reviving some of the best pieces that have been on the stage for the past 10 years. And I did this piece several years ago. It was a trio adagio piece. And yes. And I know he said, I was hoping you would be interested in being part of the trio with myself and David. And I literally dropped to my knees. I was like, yes, I'll do it.
Nice.
So that was the first thing Artie and I ever did together, was this beautiful trio adagio theater arts piece inspired by the adagio works of like Francois Zoni and his he had several partners, and Augie and Margot, like brilliant adagio dancers. So we did that together in 2000. And I didn't hear from him again for maybe like 6 months. So that would have been in May. That would have been May, time of year. Oh no, I heard from him sooner than that. Maria Torres used to have this hustle event called Hustle USA. I want to say
Right.
this might have been in 2000. Not the Broadway Bears event. Broadway Bears was in 2000. But the next thing I did with Artie was actually, sorry, I'm all over the place. It was a film festival. So the Broadway show Swing closed in the beginning of 2001. So I was now free. There was a film festival in Poland, and Ryan and Jenny were actually invited to perform, and so was Artie. And he asked me if I would be interested in working with him going to Poland. So I said, absolutely. So he choreographed a piece paying homage to Dirty Dancing.
Oh,
And
I
I
see.
remember when I was little or younger, I was probably about 14 or 15 when I saw the movie when it came out. And when Cynthia Rhodes and Patrick Swayze came out and did Johnny's Mambo, I remember thinking, I had never seen dancing like that. I didn't know what it was. At the time, I was a ballerina, funhead.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking, I have to do that. Like, I have to learn that style of dance someday. So cut to many years later, now I'm getting to dance this recreation of Johnny's Mambo and I had the time of my life dance with Artie for this film festival, which
Right.
was a dream come true. So my intro with Artie was dancing as theater art couple, ballroom
Wow.
theater arts.
Way before hustle.
I still didn't know what hustle is, right?
Right, right.
So, third thing we do together. He asked me if I'm free to do this event called Hustle USA. It was the last year, I believe, that Maria ever had it. It was over in the Meadowlands somewhere. And it was that particular year was paying homage to Eddie Vega. Now, again, for me to go back, I remember watching Star Search every weekend and watching. Little did I know I was watching Eddie and Artie. Like, I just would sit there, watch these dancers do this crazy lifts and just be in awe.
Right.
And
right.
little did I know that this is the person I'm about to, one of them work with and paying tribute to the other one, you know?
Right.
So it was recreating one of Eddie's pieces, getting to dance with Artie at this event that I knew nothing about. And so I just think, oh, okay, my only job responsibility is to do this number. So I didn't know it was a whole like weekend. I'd never heard of a Congress, you know. All I know is I got there in time to get ready, to do my makeup, to warm up, do the performance. When I was done, I ended up leaving. But in the midst of that, I'm seeing this dance and other numbers in the show and going, what's that? What is that incredible dance? It was Hustle. And I just remember being in awe and watching it because I'd never seen it before. Or if there had been versions I had seen, it definitely wasn't what I was witnessing, you know.
Right.
Kind of like Shay had mentioned, right?
Right.
And so I just remember going, wow, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so Artie and I would work a lot together, and he would bring me to hustle events, but we would perform theater arts.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
I'm still being surrounded. I'm starting to meet the crew. You know, the crew we know, Beth and Louie and in Philly, Jameson and Danny and
Right.
you know, just Mihoko and Sal, and just like, wow, this is so amazing. And I also just wanted to sit and watch and just take this in. Like I couldn't, and I was trying to understand the dance, but when I was trying to watch the really good dancers, because when they're really good, you don't always see the basic, right? Because they play so much.
Right.
So it was really hard for me to understand in the beginning. Let's see. So the next event we probably did was Disco America.
Same year.
That would have been the following year
year.
because I feel like Maria's was in the fall.
But between that time, you had been going to events here and there, like social.
No socials. No.
Oh, okay.
Because I was still actively pursuing my career as Broadway and print work and TV and commercials, and so you know, we would rehearse, do an event. A couple months would go by, maybe a few months. Artie called me, hey, there's another event. It's here. Are you interested? Yeah, I'm totally interested. And we'd rehearse maybe the week before, do it, but I would say it was in St. Martin. DJ Henry Knowles, who's a big salsa DJ, you might
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I know him.
He did this event in St. Martin, and he brought in Hustle, and this would have been 2002 or 3.
Mm.
Oh, actually 2. And I remember just watching, and Artie would try to dance with me, but he was so advanced, right? And there's actually a technique I'm learning with the actual Latin Hustle that I couldn't hear him. I couldn't. He was just so good, but I couldn't, because he wasn't really using leverage, right? So
Yeah.
Abdiel, just really quickly, Abdiel and I are in the process of doing some deep diving, digging, and research on the actual Latin hustle technique syllabus that Billy Fajardo put together. And
Right.
we literally, from the very first pattern, went, this is not what we're used to doing socially, right?
Right.
And then it was at one point I had this realization. I said, no wonder why I couldn't hear Artie. It's about forward weighted momentum as opposed to get to a full leverage extension, and you're so used to feeling that so strongly. But anyway, so I wasn't feeling like I was grasping the dance. And one night, I'm just sitting watching everybody, and Louis, amazing Louis Orlando, he comes up and he goes, come on, takes me on the dance floor. And he danced with me. It felt like for hours. Like we danced until I want to say 4 or 5 in the morning, just the two of us. And people were
Wow.
leaving, like the place was empty. And I had the light bulb moment. He's such a clean lead. If you've ever talked to people about that, or that have danced with him, or if you've ever followed when he's so clean and so clear, that was my first understanding and going, I feel it. I get it. I get it. I get what the hustle is. Like and so that was really the first time I felt like it sat in my body. And once it
Right.
did, it felt so good. But because again, there was always so much time between the next event, and I didn't realize there were all these socials.
You were really removed from all that because you had all this other stuff you were doing.
Yeah. But Artie saw something in me, and he was like, come into my world. And he had even told me, he had started in that world, wanted to do Broadway. He wanted to get into choreographing. He thought of himself as retired in the hustle community as far as a performer. And when he met me, he said I re-inspired him to want to perform and dance again. And so he brought me to Disco America. He brought me to IHSC. That was amazing. And that's when I got to meet Billy, and Billy and Katie were still dancing together, and just seeing this incredible venue, this incredible event. And it was at that event, Artie actually choreographed a hustle number for us, but with all the crazy old tricks and everything.
Mhm.
And I think that's the only hustle piece we ever really danced together, performed. Everything else was theater arts.
Right.
We competed in the North Atlantic Dance Championships, swing dance, Bill Cameron's, and we actually won. We won, and I remember being so nervous. I thought, I'm never doing that again. Like I was so nervous. I was shaking like a leaf, and it was
Right.
all dance in my wheelhouse. It started out very balletic, and I remember I went in for this one move, and he felt me. He whispered in my ear, he's like, "You got this." I was like, "You're right, I got this." And then I was able to release all the anxiety. But I thought, okay, yeah, I don't prefer competing. I prefer performing. It's a different energy, different mindset. Yeah, we did get to do a handful of things. We went out to San Francisco. to perform for Raul Ante, who passed away, this amazing dancer based out in the West Coast. And then I ended up getting a Broadway tour. So I was gone for 3 years on the road
Okay.
touring. Artie came to visit me when I was in LA. And then when the tour went through Philadelphia, he drove down because by then we had become friends, you know. As far as social dancing, he had taken me once to dance sport when it was at Columbus Circle, but that was way before I had my Louis epiphany of learning what hustle was.
Right.
So I didn't feel like I was able to really get in and enjoy it. And yeah, so I ended up leaving January 2004, and I didn't get back to New York until January 2007. By that time, Artie and David had split. Artie moved to Philadelphia, and then he sadly passed away the following year, which was devastating.
Wow. But I saw a recording of you and Artie for a hustle demonstration for, I think, a Davida.
Yes,
That was
yes,
what?
it was.
Yeah.
It was okay. So there used to be this restaurant on the northwest corner of 47th and 8th called Jack Rose, and it was a West Coast swing. On Wednesdays, it was West Coast swing, and they had this upstairs area, and so Artie was always learning new things and implementing, expanding his creativity, and so he started going to West Coast events, and he brought me, and it was so much fun. He'd become good friends with John Lindo and John Festa, so they allowed him to use the space. So I guess over that would have been. I mean, I did learn hustle the last couple years before, just from doing social dancing. I would just once I had that epiphany moment with
With
Louis,
Louis.
I got it. It was like what do you call it? The Rosetta Stone. It was like the code cipher. All of a sudden
Right.
I just understood what it was. So it was easy for
Right.
me. And also being trained as a dancer, I think gave me a little bit of an advantage of bypassing years and years and years of training, because I had already understood lead follow from doing the Lindy Hop. So I understood the dialogue technique here.
Right. Right.
It was just getting what the hustle movement was, and I was able to do that. So when we would go to these other events, I would dance socially, but it was so sporadic. It was a few times a year. But yes, Artie had wanted to do this instructional video and asked me if I would demonstrate with him, and I was happy to do that.
Yeah, that was like a bronze level or something like that, right? I think
it wasn't Davida, it was his own personal, and it was for competition patterns. He has one disc of fun social moves that he did with Beth Darchi, and then he did another series of, I want to say, more advanced competition patterns, like things to put in to elevate to make it a little more advanced. And I had completely forgotten about that even until we were starting to work together a little bit. I completely,
right.
it totally slipped my mind. But anyway, when I got back, it was devastating when I just remember my phone rang. It was Beth, and Beth told me, and I couldn't believe it. So what happened was, there was a beautiful tribute that was done for him in February of 2009. But on the anniversary of his passing in November the following year, the crew, Artie's crew, our group of friends, we would get together for dinner to honor him. And I did that. We did that for every November. And that, I think it was the second or third one. Beth and I just got along like so great from the first moment we met. But then I didn't see her for a year until that moment, and it was kind of bittersweet because we're missing Artie, but
Sure.
we had such a good time together. She said, Kristine, you should really come out dancing with us, and she and Louie, they're like, you should come out. Everyone would love to see you. Come to a social. I thought, wow, yeah, you know what? I would love that. I would really love that, because it had been years, like years, since I had done a social. So I went, and I just remember again that just joy, the pure joy and the freedom and the expression, and the energy and the inspiration of seeing everyone. And so I thought, oh yeah, I got to start doing this again. Well, again, because of my life outside of the hustle world, I maybe would go to 1, 2, 3 max a year socials,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was just enough to wet my whistle, and then I'd have to do this contract somewhere, or I'd have to go here, and so it was really interesting because I never, even though I've been around and known everyone for many, many years, I still felt like a baby because I still felt like a newbie because I had gone so few times.
Right.
Cut to, so that would have been around 2011, 2012 maybe.
Right. Okay.
And so I would go sporadically several times a year for the next few years. And cut to one of my big breaks off, I come back and I just remember Beth and Louis saying, "Oh my God, there's this new dancer on the scene. You have to meet him. He's from a dance company like you, wants to do musical theater, and he dances in heels, and he's fabulous. Oh my gosh, you have to." And the creativity reminds us of Artie. And I'm thinking, wow, this person sounds incredible, right? They're talking about Abdiel.
Right.
So they're like, "Yeah, when can you come out?" And so it was some starlight. I was able to go out with them, and I met Abby, and I just remember going, "Wow, that dancer is amazing and fabulous." And Abby was so sweet, and we did a dance, but because, it, it that was our only time to interact. And then Abby was just on the floor the whole night. So I go away again from, like, say, my next 6 months or whatever. And then I come back to my next social. And it's a Saturday night. Lori Breezy was doing a Saturday night at the dance sport when it had moved to 34th Street. I want to say it was there in the back room. And I was there, and Abdiel showed up maybe an hour before it ended. Like, there were maybe 5 people left in the room, including myself. Louis was there. I don't remember the other. There was a dancer, Gregory, and one or two other people, and then Abby came in. So we got to play, like, we had space and we danced. And then Abby started just lifting me, and we had so much fun. And then we just sat and we were talking because there was nobody else there, and found out that we were kind of neighbors. And at the time I had a car, so I offered to drive Abiel home. And we sat in my car and talked for like 45 minutes. Abby was asking me about musical theater and Broadway, and told me about Martha Graham Company, and how, at the time Abdiel was still a he. And so he was telling me, or asking for advice, and it was just a really natural, like, easy connection. And I just remember thinking, wow, this artist is so special. Like, it'd be incredible to work with this dancer someday. So before we say goodnight, I said, "Listen, I know you're so busy, but if anything ever, opportunity arises, maybe we could work on something someday." And Abdiel said, "Oh my God, that'd be great." Yeah. So we exchanged numbers. Maybe another 6 months go by, and all of a sudden there was an opportunity. I was told to dance at the Canada Salsa Bachata Congress with
Okay.
Abdiel. And so I hadn't even texted, phone call, or anything. So I didn't even know if Abdiel answered me back. And so I texted Abdiel, and Abby responded immediately. I said, "Hey, we're being asked to do this thing. We have an opportunity to put together a piece for this Congress, and I don't know if you're interested." And Abby said yes. So this is now October of 2018 is the first time we danced together.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the one with
That's our
that's
Love to Love You piece
yes,
that
the
we
one that's
did.
on YouTube, and
Yeah.
where you both
So
you both change roles, and
the first version of it,
was
we
not
didn't really, like, there was one little moment. We had another more opportunities to perform that piece, and then we started doing that more. But this was about us coming together as trained concert dancers. How do we be ourselves and show every facet of what we can do with the dance abilities that are from outside of, partner dancing,
I see.
but have it theatrical and jazzy and sassy and hustle, and it was such an organic partnership. We choreographed that in like 3 hours, something crazy.
Wow.
It happened so fast. We're like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And we knew that there was something very special with us dancing together. And it just felt like once we performed together there, that all these doors just started opening up for us. And, it was interesting because I was also at a point in my career as a dancer where I was, over the course of my career, I had sustained a bunch of really big injuries. Not that that did anything, but it was frustrating. And I thought, I don't want to do 8 shows a week anymore. That's just so hard on my body. I also get bored doing the same thing 8 times a week. I need to be constantly just
Challenged
inspired
and
to create and grow and adapt. And, not that Broadway isn't entertaining and challenging, but mentally I needed more. And I was also getting opportunities choreographing in different projects and genres, and so I wanted to kind of pursue that a little bit. But it was really strange to let go of my identity as a dancer. I was uncomfortable calling myself a choreographer. So
I
when
see.
Abdiel and I started dancing together, I felt like, oh, I still can keep dancer identity. I can still keep that, even though I'm not dancing on a Broadway stage.
But that's funny
Please,
because you kind of did a natural segue for me because my next topic was going
about
to be
Abdiel.
about, you collaborating with Abdiel. And I know that you had some tragedy when you were performing in Chicago, and
Oh
that
my
kind of
gosh.
put a crimp on your plans with Abdiel, right?
Oh yeah. Well, Abdiel, during the pandemic, had gotten accepted to the University of Washington in Seattle to go do their master's degree. And I ended up getting a contract in 2022 to go dance the lead role of Eliza in a production of The King and I in Chicago. And I fully ruptured my Achilles tendon on stage. I was the only one on stage when it happened. And not only did I rupture the Achilles, but when I landed from the jump, I tore my ATFL. I sustained it was so scary. I thought that was going to be it. Like, no more dancing. Dancing is out of the picture for me. I went to Chicago March 7th or 8th. I was supposed to be home May 24th. I didn't get home till October 9th because I had to be strong enough to drive. My best friend loaned me her car, and it was my
Crazy.
driver's foot. I had to be strong enough to make the drive back.
Yeah,
So
that's
I was
crazy.
I was stuck, and it was such a bad injury. I couldn't even say, the first time I stood, it was over 2 months after my surgery that I actually stood on 2 feet. Couldn't stand. And the rehab has been crazy. This May will be 2-year anniversary. I definitely don't have the ability to do any of the technical dancing that I could do before. Like, when you go on a demi point, it's called a releve. I'm still not strong enough to get to a full demi point on a single leg by myself unassisted. I can't jump. But my last follow up, I went to my doctor here. He cleared me to hustle. This was, I think, in November. And I was
Right.
so excited because it's like, I might not be able to do technical Eliza or, I did crazy, amazing dance shows. I may never do something like that again. But actually, I take that back. I believe I can because I'm very determined. But right now I can't, right? But when I was talking to my doctor about hustle being a partner dance, and I can be on the end of my partner's arm for stability and a momentum and strength, and I wanted to. He encouraged me also to start wearing heels again, right? So you know, it's been a crazy, long, arduous recovery since I got back October 7th of 2022. Last year, I was lucky that I got work on the creative side, directing and choreographing. So, when you choreograph and demonstrate steps, you don't have to do it full out. Like I didn't have to
Right.
do anything. I could just imply what the step is and in order to teach what the step is. So, I feel very grateful to be able to still be dancing with Abdiel and just continue to explore and dive deeper into the hustle. But, you know, again, it's 2024. I might have been part of the community for over 20 years, but I still feel like I'm brand new. Part of me still feels so new because if you put all the times I've been to a hustle thing, I mean, it wouldn't even amount to a year. If even a half a year. I don't even think it would amount to 6 months. If you put all like that night, like it's crazy, you
It's
know?
crazy. It's crazy. And it's funny too, because the limited amount of times that I've recorded you dancing, it's just so wonderful to see you dance.
Mm,
So like what you put into it, is very appealing to the eye, when it
thank
comes to
you.
hustle. Yeah. How do you stay in shape? Like what keeps you, I mean, especially after the accident, like
Yeah.
what keeps you from pigging out and getting all fat or
Oh,
whatever?
I do pig out. I do pig out. I actually have crazy appetite. People don't believe it, but I do. I grew up with four older brothers. You had to learn to eat. Otherwise, there would be no food by the time you wanted it. But I've always been athletic my entire life. Before my ballet, I was racing dirt bikes. I was doing gymnastics and I was doing ballet. Once taking dance class, but once I was performing less and as my body aged, year to year, decade to decade, depending on an injury, my workout regimen would have to change. So at one point, in order to stay fit enough to do a Broadway show under Twyla Tharp, I did Moving Out and Come Fly Away. Very, very physically demanding shows. My workout was jumping rope for 30 minutes at a time,
Mm.
plus maybe some cardio at the gym, plus dance class. Um, then when I have 4 herniated discs, four. I have four.
Yikes, I didn't know that.
I got
Wow.
one in 1998, opening night of On the Town at the Gershwin Theater. I got two doing Miss Saigon in 2008.
What?
I got my last one in the 22 right before I went to Chicago. This is why I don't believe in chiropractors. Chiropractor crunched my back and I felt something go. And I told her, and she said, "Oh no, that's normal." And the following week, I said, "My thing's still hurting." She did the same. She herniated my disc. But anyway, I have a fully torn left hip, like no cartilage. But I didn't want surgery. Then I tore my right hip, and then I had the Achilles. So, depending on the injury, at one point I was swimming. I would do just swimming. You know,
I see.
um, like 30 minutes, 30 laps swimming in
Yeah,
an
that's all you
Olympic
can
sized
do. I
pool.
mean,
Yeah. That's how I relearned to walk after my
wow.
surgery. I had to relearn to walk. I would be in the pool for 30 minutes and I just practiced walking forward and back and side to side for 30,
Wow.
45 minutes. It was crazy. But yeah, so I have a bicycle. I love my bicycle. I was in a bicycle accident in 2020, landed on my face, broke my teeth. I didn't have teeth for 2.5 years. You
I was
remember
waiting for you
that.
to I was waiting
You
for you to
remember
say
that.
that. I wasn't sure if you were gonna you were gonna say that,
Like
but
I don't even understand. Like
you have
I'm
so
just a
many
complete I'm a
you're like
disaster. You get me off
you're like
stage, I'm a complete
but you look great, like you look
Aw,
great,
thank you.
So,
But I
oh
do
my
I do
goodness.
like to be active and right now with the Achilles, what I do, I and I was told to do this 20 minutes of bike, put out a random heavy resistance to build the strength in my legs because when I came out of the cast, my right leg was completely atrophied. It was it was like the size of my arm. There was no muscle. Um and it was scary. I didn't think I would ever get my leg back, and I have little legs to begin with. It was frightening to look at. Um, so 20 minutes bike. I'll do a 20-minute hit workout. I do my PT exercises, and in between days, I'll do a full ballet bar. I have releve exercises, do core work. I'd like to get back on the bike again. I have not been back on the bike since my accident. No, that's a lie. I did. I did because my accident was August 2020, and then I got a job teaching for Marymount Manhattan College's daily dance program. And so I would have to ride my bike from where I am in Harlem to Ballet Hispanico, where they would rent studios, and back. So it wasn't too far. But yeah, 2021 was the last time I was on my bike. But I love, like, I would ride my bike all over the city all day long. That's also, I love walking. Yesterday I walked from Madison 123rd all the way down to Columbus Circle. I walked
Wow.
up to 66. I walked all the way back across and all the way back home again. Like
Nice.
I love to walk.
This was yesterday
So
because it was
I
a
think
great day. It was a beautiful
that's
day
the kind
yesterday.
of stuff that just keeps me active. I'm kind of fidgety. So I guess that's what keeps me in shape.
That's
But
good.
I do eat.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good because you gotta get sustenance or something.
Well, you
Listen,
remember, oh, sorry.
oh yeah, no, yeah, Thanksgiving. That was awesome. I have to
What I
say, yeah,
cooked, like I
yeah,
made
yeah.
a feast.
Yes, that
So,
was a lot of food, and yes, yes, that was good. Listen, I recently saw that you taught a hustle workshop in London. Do you plan on sharing
oh,
your love of dance in future workshops?
I would love to. I have like sporadic random projects outside the hustle world again that are taking me in and out of the city.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. I haven't really been able to bring my brain to really center yet. I literally just got back 2 days ago from Italy. You know, the weekend before I was in Rhode Island choreographing Sound of Music. The weekend before I was in London doing that. The weekend before I was in LA with Abdiel. So it's just in and out, and I just need to. Like I got back yesterday was my first full day back, and I felt
Wow.
like I don't even know what is going on in my life right now. Like there's a project I'm supposed to be choreographing, then I'm supposed to go back to LA. Like I have to really sit and center and just see what I need to do and implement. I still I still know I there's so much space for me to grow and learn still. Like that process as an artist for me never ending.
Right.
Um, so it's funny. I have these weird fears sometimes, and I've talked to several people close to me about this in the hustle community. It's like, who am I to present anything? Like I didn't take workshops or classes. Like I wish I had been around to be able to do that and train with the greats. And I learned backwards. Like I started in the air, came down to the ground, learned Lindy Hop, and then I crash course hustle, and then I was just social dancing. And it's almost like I don't like skipping
Steps. Yeah.
steps. I don't like I want to make sure I have the fundamentals first. So that's why this work that Abdiel and I are doing, really doing a deep dive, starting at the very beginning, ground zero of Latin hustle, is so exciting because I'm all about, we're both very technical dancers and come from that and discipline. And so technique is freedom, technique is foundation. And so I'm just excited to continue learning because I put myself down a lot, and I've had like Beth tell me and Mihoko tell me and Abdiel tell me like, snap out of it. Like you're Kristine. Like you have the ability, what you have done, what you have presented, what you have performed, your skill set. You you are worthy of being a part of this community. And I go, oh, because I again, like I said, I still feel almost like a newbie, even though I've been around for so many years. It's just,
Yeah. I think that for me, especially from your story now, it sounds like you're like back in the day when there were no classes. We were all experiencing hustle as it was being, developed, as it was evolving, and we were learning that
hmm
too until people got together to go, well, these are the things you should do.
hmm
And so I think you have experience in that regard, in that you've learned it from you've danced with like one of the
Mm-hmm.
greats,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've allowed yourself to free yourself socially to get that information, absorb it, evaluate it, and
Yeah.
then getting with a couple people like Louis, like Beth, like
Mm-hmm.
Abdiel, and others
And
to
Boots is
and
amazing.
Boots. Yeah,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh,
and
I
so
love him.
putting all that together,
Yeah.
I think qualifies.
And here's the thing, it's not like I don't have knowledge. I do, and I'm happy to share everything I have. Like,
Mhm.
but I won't pretend to share what I don't know. I will,
Right.
like when I went to London, I knew, okay, they're really good socially. What can I bring
Yeah.
to them that would be interesting? So I went
Right.
and I brought choreography to a set to a song as opposed to, oh, here's a hustle pattern. You can dance to any music. I actually choreographed to a specific song and to specific hits and added some elements that were, a little more dancey outside of the hustle. And it was fun
I
for them
see.
because it was different. It was so I
Right.
know what
Right.
I know, and I know what I have to offer that is different, and it puts my personal stamp on it. So I'm happy to share what I do because I know what I do. Maybe someone else won't, or I don't do what that person does, or that person, but I know what I do, and yes, I'm so happy to share it.
Can you briefly tell us what your upcoming collaboration with Abdiel will be?
Yeah, so we are going to be working again. I'm going to go out to LA in May. We're going to continue doing research through Scripps College, where Abdiel is a professor, and dig into the syllabus, break it down. We worked with Lisa Annunziella and Frank Reyes when we were there last time, so we'll work with them again to get some incredible insight to these incredible powerhouses. And then we just got a grant through the college to actually do like a series, like a panel, teach a workshop, and do a performance in October. And then Abdiel will be in New York over the summer, obviously, with Dance is Life. So
Right.
we'll get together because we have an idea for a new piece that we would like to start working on, and it's being supported by this grant.
And it's all hustle.
It's all hustle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have my other work that is kind of waiting in the sidelines, which is, you know, fingers crossed it'll happen, but it's a big project, a very, very big project. So, just kind of waiting on that.
Right. Right.
There's, but it's like I have my musical theater world and I have my hustle world. There's a show in Calgary that's going to be produced next year that I'm the associate choreographer on. Um, it was supposed to happen, but then the pandemic happened and then it just kept getting pushed back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's, it's trying to balance all of the art and creativity and calendar. And somehow it miraculously is working out. It all kind of does this, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Life.
definitely miss Abdiel being on the East Coast, but I actually love going to the West Coast because the weather's so nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to see when that occurs. I mean, I
Hmm.
had a wonderful time recording the two of you at Guggenheim. That was such a beautiful
Oh,
routine. Yeah, I'm more, please.
that was that was really special for me too because I didn't know if I would get cleared medically, and I was only
Right.
cleared. You remember all the drama, like go to see a show at the Copa and be asked to dance. It's like, oh, I don't know if I can. Like, I don't have the strength, and sure enough, I would feel it. Like, oh, that hurt, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
now you're feeling stronger now. I mean, you could.
I do. I have to be obviously rested, and I have to make sure, like the Guggenheim was special because it was my first time actually dancing. Even though I did some projects last summer, it was as director, choreographer, or associate, or I was in a production of Singing Miss Saigon that I was also the associate director, choreographer on, but that's a singing show, so I didn't have to dance. It was just like, yeah. So I didn't. It was special for me in so many ways that not only getting reunited with FDL, but we had worked so hard to make so much happen, and then when I got injured, it just kind of like but it's crazy. I feel like everything still happens for a reason, even though I wasn't able to be a part of their do the hustle project. It was also really hard because I was stuck in Chicago. My dad passed away while I was away. So I was just not in a space. Like originally I was going to help out with the project, and then I just emotionally couldn't even grasp my head around that. My mom
Yeah.
had died in 2016, and now I can't even medically travel because of my injury, and my dad dies, and it's like, so
Yeah. It's a bit
it
much.
was very special for me December at the Guggenheim to be reunited with Abdiel and the hustle world, because aside from all the drama, and there's a lot of drama in the hustle community, it's like I don't understand it. It's almost the reason why I don't go. You don't see me every week. It's like if I go a few times a year, I can still love and appreciate it. If I show up more than that, it's like, what is going on, people? What is going on with you?
Well,
Stop.
I have to say this though. Hustle has a lot less drama than any other dance, social dancing that I know of. Like in salsa, you could triple that, quadruple that. Yeah. There's look, let's face it, um, any community of worth, you're gonna find drama. Any kind of community.
I mean, you're
And
right. Any
so,
vocation, even outside of dance. But
yeah,
like,
yeah,
for me, I just want to dance. That's it. I
yeah,
just want
yeah,
to dance. I want to be free. I want to dance. I want everybody to be happy. And like, that's what, and that's why I love that Abdiel named the social dance his life. Like, it's so joyous. It's so celebratory. And there's just so much um, beauty in just that. And so I'm so grateful to be a part of this community. I love it, and I realize that this is as much of a family of to me as the Broadway musical theater world, and if
yeah.
anything, maybe even a little more. I feel yeah, definitely feel at home, and I know I don't get out a lot, but it's hard when you're also traveling, but I promise I'm gonna be a lot more this summer.
Hey, name 3 leads and follows you love to watch and why.
Okay. Leads. Sal is the first one that comes to my mind because I love his creativity and his fearlessness just to be himself. And no matter what he's doing, he is still on count, and he keeps that follower on count, and it is so much fun to dance with him. I'm not around so much. It's like hard for me to pick names, and obviously I'm gonna go to my friends because I see them more. But like, you know, obviously, like I love Louis because he gets all like he gets very like he's got this body language that kind of
Right,
just closes in, and he has this thing. I
right.
can't explain it.
Yeah, like a
That
matador, you
yeah, but
know.
that smirky, and he does this like I it's so much fun. And
Right.
also I loved, I guess I would say Mauricier because he's such a powerhouse. And he's so the timing and his sense of space and the power, the fuerza bruta, like it's incredible. I know there are others out there. I'm sorry that
No,
because
no,
again, I
you
haven't.
did fine. You did 3, and that's what we were looking for. But
Yeah.
what about the follows? Like, who do you like to watch as follows?
Oh gosh,
3,
Abdiel.
3.
I mean, Abdiel's just so amazing. The stuff that Abdiel is able to do because of all their training, like the diverse background, from ballroom into modern, and the jazz ability and sensibility and the whacking and the voguing is like, holy cow, this person is inhuman in the good way.
Right.
Let's see. Lorianne Greenhouse. She's still just so clean and specific, and her ability just like it's so powerful. It almost reminds me of years ago before she passed away in the Broadway world. I was lucky to work under the direction and choreography of Anne Ranking. brilliant Annie Ranking, right? And she didn't demonstrate. She had her assistant do it, but there was one day she came in to look at this number. She was like, and we were basically just doing bevels, where you kind of like you bend your knee. And I just remember she saw us and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like to all the women, all of us. That's not. This is how you do it. And she just went boom, 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 like, and it was, even though it was just a bevel, it punched me in the face. It was the execution, the precision. And that's how I feel like Lorianne is, because she has this, her technique is infallible, right? So she could be doing something so simple and it just looks like such brilliant art. I would say Veronica, obviously. Veronica, another powerhouse. Just her. She's got this fun, sassy quality, and she also has just incredible technique, and it's just so playful. You know, those would be
Right.
the three I would say come to the top of my mind.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, they're all, wow, all six people. They're just all wonderful dancers and beautiful human beings. And
Yeah.
it's, I think too that when people who are not aware of them, but when I don't know why I didn't do it in the beginning. When I first started recording the videos, I didn't name, and they had even told me, oh, you should put their names. And I was like, oh, that's so much work. I have to type the names and I have to do all that, and I was doing a lot of copying and pasting text wise when I was uploading. But after a while, when you name the dancers, the audience, the people who are viewing them get kind of connected to them.
Hmm.
And so when we talk about them, when people are watching things like this, well, you had somebody else?
I just realized, why did I think of Shay as a leader?
Oh.
Shay's amazing. It's like
But
anyway, there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many though.
There's
There's
so
so
many. There's so
many.
many. Yeah, yeah. And I could name some others, but I just wanted
And
sometimes
that's just here in the United States. I haven't even been able to talk about any, like, out
right.
of the United States. And there's such brilliant dancers outside of the United States.
Yes, yes,
Nick and Inga from London, and you've got Julian and Taylor, and yeah, there's just such
yeah.
incredible dancers out there. So to all of you, you're all amazing. Whoever's, I,
Yes, yes.
but again, because my last social was what, 6 months ago, so
Right,
it's
right.
like out of sight, out of mind. It's
Well, if
hard
you're not
to.
doing anything tonight, if you feel like it, Chinatown, I'm going. So hopefully, you'll go.
Ah,
And
that's right, on
it's
Wednesdays.
it's
Maybe
intergenerational. It's nice.
maybe next Wednesday. Let me.
Oh no, no. Sarah does it every other Wednesday.
Oh, every other. Okay, good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So,
tonight, and Nelson's
I
playing
can't
tonight too.
tonight, and then I'm in Palm Springs on the 24th. So,
Ah, okay.
ah,
Well,
but I promise I'll go out.
sometime in the not too
Promise
distant
I'll.
future.
Yeah.
So listen, we're gonna wrap things up here.
Yes, we're over time.
But
We're very.
but no, no. I mean, this is okay. But I gotta ask you this one question. This is a
Mm.
question that everyone gets, and it is, what is Latin hustle? Tell me, coming from Kristine Bendel, what is Latin hustle to you? You can either describe it or give your feeling about it, or just let us know, what is Latin hustle.
Ah, that's such a deep question. Because the dance was birthed here in New York City. The Latin communities, that their own knowledge of partner dancing, whether it's salsa, mambo, informed as the music evolved into disco and hustle was being formed, and it's just their fire, the passion of the dance. Obviously, it has metamorphosized and blossomed and bloomed over the decades. Um, and it's interesting doing the research because, at a point where there's a great book called Glamour Addiction. It's how ballroom basically culturally appropriated all these dances from brown communities, right?
Right.
And they took it to make it their own. And ballroom was actually dying. Like, it was only old white people, and they realized that what hustle was being done, the Latin hustle, this amazing powerful dance that was the tricks and the fire and in the clubs, and they grabbed these dancers to bring into their studios to revive their dying dance, but it wasn't something like it had to be codified, right? This dance that just naturally evolved all of a sudden has to be codified and figured like, what are we doing? Like, how do you break down what we're doing? And they did it. A bunch of the greats got together and did it. But I wouldn't say it's just that. It's a story of people and a time and community and coming together. And I love hearing the stories because it's, back in the day, unless you were a great dancer, you didn't get to dance, right? Which is different because
Very true. Very true.
now it's a celebratory common community. But the one thing that from my understanding is that the clubs back then were a utopia for all wakes of life, like bridge across all divides, whether it was sexual orientation, preference, economic status, religious, race, gender, all of it. Everyone found a place in the club scene, even though not everybody was allowed to be part of the big dancers circle. What it is to me now, I think it's something very special. I think it's a very special piece of dance history, that it is very important that it is being recognized and honored and respected. And that's why Abdiel and I, are doing this research and are doing a deep dive, because we had so much respect for the dance and we found ourselves in it, and then we found each other in it. And, when the documentary that we were part of, when we're working on, originally our intention when we met with the director was we wanted to bring hustle back the respect it deserves. Mainstream media makes a mockery. Anytime you see something hustle or disco and it's still this. It's like,
Right.
no, why do you have to put them in the polyester? Why do you have to, show what the dance is if you know what it is? So for me, Latin hustle is a very important part of an artistic cultural moment in New York City time that needs to be honored and recognized and needs to be uplifted again. And so Abdiel and I are on that mission to do that, and just also through that vehicle share the joy of dancing, and life through dance, community
Nice.
through dance.
Yes, thank you for those words. There's a lot to be said about Latin hustle, of course. And if we only spoke about all the things that happened in the evolution, the pioneers, and people like right now, like Billy Fajardo, who has been just ever present and doing all he can to really maintain Latin hustle around the globe, and other folks who have picked up the mantle in their regions, in their locales, and going around the world to help. Like T-Boy right now, he's getting ready to do a little tour, and that's awesome.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be here next week, in fact. Doing a little collab with Veronica and hanging out. But he's bouncing around the country, and he's going to Canada too. And I'm just saying, T-Boy, there are other things that are coming up, other works that are happening, things like you and Abdiel are doing, and we need to, make sure that we continue and infect the rest of the world.
I see it's happening. I mean, it is so impressive. I love seeing how it has spread around the globe. It just makes me so happy and joyous. And, really quickly in 2021, in the summer, I was in Italy on vacation. My first time there, I'd never been able to be there. And I had met a woman who was fairly new to the hustle through Abdiel via WhatsApp. And we met up for lunch, and then she and her husband invited me to stay with them my last night there because it was closer to the airport than where I was. It would have taken me an extra 2 hours at like 3 a.m. to get to the airport. And they invited Graziano. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it's so funny because you assume all Europeans speak English, and he didn't, but I was learning Italian. And so we were able to communicate. And I was asking him about the hustle, and he was telling me about this dancer named Arte Phillips. And I went, look at my tattoo. I was like, oh, balato con, con Louis. And like, and he didn't realize that I was the one that was dancing with Artie way back when he first came into. So it just all these beautiful connections all around that you can make. And it's just incredible what he's done there, what everyone in Japan is doing, in Canada, yeah, it's incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe the hustle is here to stay.
Yeah. We're growing, and we're going to continue to grow. And it's good that the messages, collectively, the messages that we are being inclusive, and this family of love for the dance and all that. Before we go, any last thoughts or anything you want to impart to the audience?
I'm just so grateful for everyone. I really am. Dance is the air I breathe. I cannot imagine not dancing. And whether if I'm not dancing on stage, I love going out. I love the social aspect. Yeah, I'm just so grateful for everyone, and thank you for receiving me. Yeah, that's it.
Well, we love you, Kristine.
I love you too.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to, because I know you. I mean, we talked about this for a little over a month or so, and I know you were busy, had stuff coming, and even
I
when
told
you weren't,
as soon as I got back, I'm doing it.
right. So this is great, and I'm so happy. So, folks, when you get a chance, right after this, or even right now, click like, click share with someone, hit that notification bell, subscribe to the N123 channel, where, of course, Let's Talk Hustle resides, and check out the over 6,000 videos of social dancing and the like. This was a wonderful time with my buddy here, Kristine Bendel, and stay tuned for more weekly episodes. Hey, Mike Bello here in the M123 studio with the Let's Talk Hustle podcast. I want to give a quick shout out to New Circle Films, who were so gracious to sponsor me with product, especially this particular boom arm for the microphone, as well as some lighting. So yeah, it's really helped to give a greater look to the podcast. So thank you, New Circle Films. And of course, the other shout out, tongue in cheek, to N123, because the podcast is residing in the N123 channel. So that's it, folks. See you in the next video.